Holy cannoli. Okay, so this is really ambitious of me right now because I just finished doing a video for my Patreon and it was long. And so, but I'm going to go with this for as long as I'm able to go with it. How about that? I've been trying to. First of all, welcome to the House of Liberation. I'm Kohenet. Yeah, I don't know if you're new here. If you're new, Kohenet is the Hebrew word for priestess. I am ordained as a Hebrew priestess, which means that I facilitate Jewish earth-based rituals and beautiful seasonal cycles, beautiful things, along with many other things that I've done in all the iterations of the life that I've lived. That includes social justice work, anti-racism trainings, and making herbal kits and creating formulas for the body with herbal medicine while simultaneously burning the fuck out, while simultaneously going through an enormous amount of shit, while simultaneously burying two parents, having a massive divorce. I mean, the story can go on forever and there's a million things. I am also a poet. I am the word dominatrix and I like to crack the pen and bleed like ink. So if you don't know, now you know some, and you might need to really spend some time with me to know more. Anyway, so I've been trying to do this video forever where I'm like, I don't even know what to tell you except to say that, like, I feel that my life in some ways has been on fire. I've been going through so much, and while still I was earlier using the lemonade metaphor. You know how people are like, make lemonade out of lemons. It fucks me up every time I say lemonade because I think of Beyonce's album, which I thought was dope. But anyway, so there's this part here of like, I've been making lemonades for so fucking long. I don't even know, like, is there any other juice in the world? Like, you know what I mean? That has been my experience. And so part of what I wanted to share is that for the most part, I've shown up to the best of my capacities and all of those beautiful things, despite the challenges. That sounds glorious in some ways, but it's fucking not. It's actually some really heavy duty internalized ableism, simultaneously with not really having a full understanding or clarity about my own neurodivergence and really coming to understand more about that, which has been a series of like grief, mind-blowing comfort and realizations, and then somewhere in the vicinity of I feel like I've lost my fucking mind, or I'm gonna lose my mind, right? And I don't say that lightly, and I recognize that's holding an energetic container that's challenging. So just know that I'm holding that. But just the spectrum that happens when, one, you have late diagnoses, and then on top of that, when you are just having enough capacity to sense into your being. And what's really fascinating to me about this conversation, which there'll be more about this as life continues to unfurl for me, but the part about this is that there's just so many layers. I'm going to save it for another video because I really want to specifically talk about neurodivergence and ableism and the spiritual community and the wellness community and everybody wants to get to the place where they are I don't know, because I think it's like an avatar, an ideal of perfection, which has a lot to do with when you take a bunch of wisdom systems and belief systems and you fucking throw them all into a pile of like positivity shit and wellness shit and then you hand that over. You sprinkle heavy doses of spirituality from one context, but not from another, where you just extract one piece of a wisdom body and not necessarily the entirety. And then you just grab from here, and then you grab from here, and then you call it all like, we're going to get healed. So, of course, it's like gaslighting like a motherfucker on top of holy Batmobile, more ways to know yourself. So for me, there's been this where I've been so busy like prioritizing the justice work, because for myself as a woman of color, having gone through so many traumatic experiences, et cetera, I'm showing up in a way with my life that has been primarily driven by advocacy and activism for my community, my family. Like, it's not distant. It's not like some sort of hobby. I think this would be really great if we had a just and equitable world. No, I'm still struggling in this fucking dumbass equitable world that we think it is, but it's not. We know that. We got it now. We're getting it. Some of us. I've spent a lot of time trying to communicate in very practical ways how we must get it before it can change. And so, having gone through, like, I think my dad dying was the kind of my last, like, that along with the fucked up colleague collaboration shit that went down in flames. And here's the thing, it's okay. It needed to happen. It really was like that needed to, that was, there's some toxic people out there doing what people think is good work. And that shit is so, you got to be careful, baby Buddha, you got to be careful. Anyway, so all of that was like, okay, I got to take a step. What the fuck, right? Like one of those. And so in taking a step back, one of the things I realized, like as my dad was slowly coming to the transition door, I realized that I wanted to reset my life. And what I mean by reset my life, I mean like clear the slate of what I know in terms of like, or what I think I know about myself, or the like, just so many layers of that, and actually look at these areas of my life based on both like needs, wants, and desires, and see what is needed actually, how can I move differently? How can I do things differently? In the process of that, I came to some personal realizations around my own neurodivergence that explained so much for me. Also caused me an enormous amount of grief, and also that feeling of like losing my mind, because you start to realize that you invested so much time into, you know, you don't see it, because if the language is not available, if there's not people like that are meeting themselves differently but can identify and relate to you, then you think that you're gonna have to figure out what you think is going on. Most of that actually looks like internalized projections that people have put on you, and simultaneously it also like there's so much there that, again, that's like a separate video. But anyway, so I've come to some deeper understanding around my own needs, some of them, and what's actually going on with me. And if you saw the video, I put this on social media where I had this like fucking huge aha that caused me tears for days on end, where it was like, I'm not going to get better, because it's not a better thing. It's not actually like, oh, I'm just going to heal from the trauma that I've experienced. I'm going to get my nervous system regulated and right? Then everything is magically delicious. And then whenever I'm triggered, I'm just going to be able to breathe my four box breath. That'll help reset my vagus nerve. That helps, you know, like recalibrate my nervous system so that it doesn't. Yes, and I'm not a problem. I don't have a problem. I'm actually different and built differently. And because I'm built differently, and I've been trying to wear, it's like being it's like I'm not a ballerina, so I don't wear the point shoes. And so imagine me taking a pair of point shoes, sticking my feet in them, and then trying to walk around. Well, the walking's not happening. What you're going to see is a series of tumbles. And I have no idea where my legs or my arms will wind up, but I'm sure it's going to hurt because I've been trying to put myself into these fucking like shoes that I have no training and I don't want it either. Other people walk in it and their feet pay the price for it. I am not built for that. I do not, I'm like, we're taking off the shoes and I'm stomping on the ground because my people come from land in which when we talk to the divine, when we engage with each other, we were dancing and we were in it, right? So, I mean, even when I think about like Spain, my ancestry in that way, flamenco, nobody's walking around softly, delicately, quietly. We have presence. We take a stand. Our feet hit the ground. We stand in ownership of our feet. We're not skimping around quietly. And so when I think of that in the same way that I think of neurotypical, the world created in a neurotypical way and for neurotypicals, and thinking, and neurotypical just means, how do we even think? Honestly, I'm going to blend worlds here in terms of spiritual and this like physical dimension that we live in, the world of muggles. This world, I don't even think, I think that muggles and I think that people who are neurotypical to me are people who are like a zombie asleep. And now don't come in my comment box with your shit, because if you don't get what I'm saying, then I would highly suggest you go somewhere else where you feel much more comfortable. If you're like, oh, I feel attacked, aren't you? Don't do that, because this is not the place, because you're going to get deleted. Not because you have a difference of opinion, but because that's not what I'm here for. And that's not what you're here for. So if you feel like you can't connect, you can move on, right? Like that just makes sense. I don't understand why people be getting in people's comments shit. But if you see people face to face, you're like, oh, hey. Linda, if you feeling bold on a comment section, come be bold in my face. That makes more sense to me. But what makes sense to me doesn't necessarily make sense to some people. Anyway, we can move on. Brooklyn, Latinx. I'm Boricua to the core. I like the peace. I like to keep it chill. I'm mostly a laid back person, I mean, it's chill, but I don't think you want to fuck around and find out. That's just silly. Anyway, back. I digress. So I really think that in a spiritual kind of context, that's what's happening. But I also know that the brain scan of a neurodivergent person and the brain scan of a neurotypical person are two worlds apart. So there's something there. And I'm going to go with the idea of that we have access to aspects of our brain that some folks do not. And that creates an enormous amount of challenge and can also physically create challenge, but not because there's something wrong with us, but because the structures that exist don't exist for us or with us in mind. All right, there we go. So I'm having all these like fucking ahas that are blowing my mind, giving me a better understanding. I see myself. I understand things in such a different way here. I was, building my life in such a bizarre way, because I also naturally have a resistance to what I call like dumb shit, half-baked shit, and bullshit, right? So there's ways that I've resisted some of these things, but it's been at a cost and painful. Having said that, so that's been happening while I'm simultaneously like wanting to reset my life, wanting to look at things not only from a different perspective. And here's what sometimes people hear when they hear this. I'm resetting my life, so I'm getting my shit together. No, that's not what's happening here. It's not I'm getting my shit together. It's I'm actually what's happening is that I'm letting my shit fall apart. I mean, it's already there, kind of, I didn't need to work too hard for that. Because everything was like getting cleared out like a slate, like a motherfucker. And it's the things that don't belong in my life, and they don't belong in my life because of the harm that they actually are embodying, and they create a lack of safety. And so I've noticed that when we're worried about how we're being perceived because we take ownership of our neurodivergence, when you're worried about how you're being perceived, what tends to happen is that you you are not able to see people either for who they are and what they are. It took me, and I think I've mentioned this already. If you haven't been, I think I mentioned it in one of my, I don't know, a TikTok, an IG, a reel, I don't know, a story. Who knows anymore? There's so many avenues. um, but I was sharing about realizing after that particular collaboration was done that it was an abusive relationship because of the way that person actually, the toxicity that actually was engaged in there. I thought, in my own, like, again, trying to offer compassion and understanding. And also I come from a lot of shit. So that also means I know sketchy thinking, and I know, like, there's some things that I'm familiar with, that there was a time that I understood, like, I had a side commentary, when you see shit, you're like this person or that thing, but never, like, I wasn't trying to judge. I just didn't understand why the fuck a person would choose to do a thing or not choose to do a thing or do harm, or, like, if you're working in the system, then by virtue that system is going to be, it's hard on people, man. It's really fucking hard. And then some people are just fucking nasty in it. And then there's other people that are just by the edge of their seat surviving. And so I think that there are a lot of ways that I didn't see it because I didn't want to. My own relationship to, like, partnerships and things like that is longing for that type of, like, I love working together with folks, not necessarily in the way that it's like, if there's too much dysfunctional shit and egoic shit, I'm not interested. I tap out because I don't have the patience to, people's lives are at risk while you're fucking around with your ego and needing to stroke yourself. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. I don't have time. I don't come from the luxury of being able to be like, oh, I'm going to think about how does this solely benefit me? Or, do I look like a hero, or am I the shit? I don't care about that. I'm like, I just want to talk about the way that when you think I'm exotic, it actually impacts me, and it's kind of fucked up, right? Like, I'm like, can we talk about that? And we could talk about that with compassion, right? And recognizing that fucked upness is a learned behavior, and that you got to get your shit, like, got to start thinking about how you're thinking about things, which is what makes my work powerful, right? I'm not here to slice anybody. I'm actually here in defense of my community and my lived experience and the lived experience of my family, which I refuse any longer to stand by and watch a society that decides that they're going to shit on every fucking Latinx person. And then on top of that, we internalize those messages, and then we start doing things to each other that should not be done. We start gatekeeping, we start getting really hoity-toity, and we think that we got our stuff together when we're still the thing that people talk about in the boardroom. We're still the warming the chairs that are revolving, because the minute you start getting excited or super passionate, that's interpreted as aggression. And next thing you know, you're out the boardroom door and somebody else is invited in and they think they're special too. As you see, it's a thing. So having said that, I hadn't realized that. And it's because I had not realized that the collaborative relationship I was in was abusive, or that what I was experiencing within it was actually, there's a degree of that. It was very narcissistic because of my own particular, like, sometimes it's hard for me to believe that people are being that harmful or being that, like, messed up, or even the ways I try to understand or make sense of how they're perceiving that. Like, if you're perceiving it based on your understanding, then I understand how you get to that thought. That doesn't mean I agree with it. You didn't fucking ask me if I agree with it, so I'm not gonna, right? Like, it doesn't mean I agree with it. Your perspective, I see how you're getting there. And so that can be a little confusing, because as a neurodivergent person on the spectrum, if I'm saying something, I tend to say exactly what I'm meaning. That's why I take my time to speak. And that's why I would take my time to respond to something, because I'm thinking about what are the words that I want to use that actually express what I'm wanting to say, what I'm feeling, because sometimes it's hard for me to register, like, what I have the feelings, but it's hard to discern what they are at times. So I need more time to respond to something. And so here I had been thinking about what are the things in my life that I've been looking at my life through a particular lens, trying to understand what I may be doing wrong, but I'm not doing something wrong. I'm not wrong. I'm not a problem to fix. I'm different. And there's ways that I've tried to defend that difference, and I've tried to resist like being stuck in a mold and some sort of conformity. Or on the other side of that, there's the who can I trust that is safe enough to actually have a conversation about the ways that I feel extraordinarily vulnerable, or the things that I'm struggling with when I don't even have the language for it. And then on top of that, if they're an ableist motherfucker, then I just set myself up for, it's one thing at a distance to have to defend yourself, and it's another thing when somebody's so close, they're getting at you right there, and they are merciless. And you want to know how you know? I'm going to tell you how you're going to know. Because for that person, when they hear you talk about your struggle, and this is can be a temptation for a lot of folks, they are just about like, all you need to do is stick to a schedule. All you need to do is, and I'll share another example, then I'm going to move on, because I don't want to talk about this person any more than necessary, except as a fucking case study. When my mom passed away, I went through a deep depression. It was really bad. And then COVID hit, and I got COVID too. Anyway, long-term effects are real. Anyway, and I was in a bad depression. When I say bad, I mean it was bad. And if you go to any of my videos or any of my things from that time, it was rough. I was trying, man. I was hanging on by a thread. When I was sharing this with the person who was a colleague, who also I thought was a friend, I'm not 5, but anyway, a friend is like a 5-year-old going, but I thought you were my friend. Anyways, there's challenges there. I'm working on it. That person, all they could respond to that was with, well, you just fill in the blank. Like, all they thought about was how it impacted them. They were like, wow, that sounds really hard. Well, I had this going on, or I had this going on, and you didn't. In another sample, someone else who we've cleaned a lot of that up, but one of the experiences in another relationship, this is so much information right now, in another relationship was like, well, you didn't reciprocate the amount of presence that I was giving to you back to me. I was fucking depressed. So depressed that even I didn't know what the fuck to do. Depression was getting me so good that I don't even know how my kids survived having to watch that and be with that, hear it, and not know what to do. That was so hard on my kids, so hard on the people that cared about me or that were close enough to know what was going on with me. And so this is how you start to know. These are like red flags when the people you're talking to, you're talking about suffering with depression, you're talking about suffering with whatever, right? Manic, whatever you want to talk about. And their response and or reaction is about them, because it's important to them to let you know their impact. Stay the fuck away from people like that if you have mental health challenges or if you're a neurodivergent person. Stay away from people like that. It's gaslighting, it's dangerous, it's toxic, and it's really painful, my friend. So don't let yourself say thank you, no thank you, and go in the other direction. The first time it happens, it's a red flag. Now you can communicate, but after that, if you see any indication of that shit, cut it. Because that person is going to, anyway, if you know, and if you don't, well, thank goddess, but don't be the person doing it. Zip it. Go get an education and then come back with 10 doses of compassion, some extracted from you ableism, and then maybe, goddess willing, you'll be worthy of that friendship if you're lucky, right? So, okay, having said that, again, like this clear out of really evaluating my life, my relationships, my friendships, and all of these pieces, and saying to myself, like, wait, there's something going on here. There's a pattern. What's happening. I don't understand. And I usually would like internalize that shit, feel shame because I couldn't figure out, maybe there was something I wasn't doing. None of that was actually true. The challenge is that what is actually was actually at the root that's not a problem is not what I was looking at. I was looking at the outside and I was looking at the byproduct, right? And then sometimes I'm saying, well, wait, if this is like, maybe this is what I need to do. That's that betterment shit. And so, having said that, having said all of this in a very quick, weekend way, as fast as my lips are moving, I had decided that I wanted to do and get to a place where even my showing up online is very walk with me like, and not so much from the type of like I'm creating a container for you to be in, but that I'm in the container as well. And if you want to join me, you can, and if you don't, you don't. Totally cool. Whatever makes sense for you. And so here I am. It's now 12:41. We're 25 minutes into the video, and what I want to say is that things will change around here just a bit, and it'll change in a way that is about really showing up as walking with me in this journey of unmasking. It is a specific autism spectrum conversation around masking, not that dumbass shit that people be talking about, that they be doing fake shit out there. I'm not talking about fakeness. That's a different conversation for a neurotypical brain. I'm specifically talking about you needing to like conform and adjust to the constructs of whatever you have to engage with and interface with. So like if you work a regular job, a 9-to-5 job, or you have a career in which requires your presence, there may be ways that you are masking that you think are you as well, but they're actually not you, and they're what you know you need to do in order to be present in that way. And I just registered what someone said to me recently in a conversation around like getting support and dealing with things. And they were talking about they can't be like open themselves in that way. I understand now why. I understood it from a different perspective. Now it registers deeper because we're trying to survive the environments that we're in, the demands that it places on us, to the fact that then it leaves us shutting down, which is not voluntary, burning out, which is not voluntary, and a whole host of other situations that are really, really challenging. And I have been responding to my life, my business, my work, everything from like a very ableist perspective, because my diagnosis, my stuff came up later because there wasn't space for me to have the time to centralize my stuff in that way. There's a lot of other work I've done, right, in my healing journey and things like that. And healing, not meaning by like, now my shit is together, now I got it, which was my point earlier. When I mean reset, I mean designing a life that works actually for me, not against me. A life that actually helps me manage my better days and my more challenging days, helps me be able to honor the moment that I need to shut down. If you would walk a mile in my shoes, you'll understand why burnout is so real. Here's the thing. I want to just share the journey. And I want you to walk with me for however long we're doing this thing, right? This online thing, this human thing, this people thing. And I'd love to share the journey of resetting my life with you if you're interested. If you want support in some sort of way, I do tarot readings and things like that. You can go to my website and find out what you need to do in order to book a session with me. Having said that, I want to share my journey with you in as much as makes sense to. And it'll be this is the house of liberation because that's what I'm committed to. That's what I'm interested in. To the point that even if I get directions and it says go northeast, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense because where I want to go is northeast. If I see myself even taking a conventional route to go northeast, I will turn my ass around and do the opposite thing just to break out from my own constructs or my own frames. And so one of the things that I want to do is kind of like reset how I've been handling myself. I've been doing community work so long in so many different ways, and not just like in physical, like larger community, but in my own nucleus of family and my own nucleus of spiritual community, right? Because I don't stop being who I am just because I'm doing a training. My work is my, like, what I show up for is part of who I am. I don't, there's not a duplicity in that. I'm not talking about why wellness and positivity and shit like that is some of that shit is so toxic, because I think it's a great theory to entertain. It's because I have a relationship to the things that I'm talking about. I'm engaging in them. And so for me, this is really about a journey of learning to manage my wellness, my well-being in a way that's not neurotypical and in a way that's not ableist. Uh, Looking at my life in all its categories, which are still a whole, not fragments, right? And seeing what do I need to shift and change so that my life can be much more fully embodied and experienced, and not constantly in the cycles of burnout, which are very real. So, having said that, this is what this is going to become. You're welcome to join me. You're welcome to subscribe, to like, set the notification button, because you know the deal with this algorithm shit, whatever, right? But you might want to know when I'm posting so that you can come be with me. Um, and so there's some of the stuff that I'll be sharing in my Patreon, which is like some of the things would be just Patreon focused, but in the same way, I'm releasing all the ways that I've been doing my business, my creating, any places where I've been forcing and pushing myself to the lemonade reference. I'm a fucking lemonade expert. You tell me one more thing about lemonade and I will, I don't know, pour lemon juice on a cut so that you can stop talking to me like that. How about that? I don't know. That is weird. But anyway, you get my point here, right? So it's not about pushing, forcing, and trying to, because I'm worried about running out of energy. I'm worried about spoons, running out of my spoons and not having enough. I'm worried about what's going to happen if I'm not actively engaging in connection and I have a shutdown day. I'm not living in that constant like fear of my own capacity because it's going to run out on me. And so I'm redesigning the way I hold space here and making it work so that I'm in it. And it's not just, this is kind of the challenges sometimes of being a priestess and doing, work in which you're calling in and holding space collaboratively with folks, but you're facilitating. When you're facilitating, it's a different type of hat because you're holding the space and you're supporting others in the integration of whatever it is. And so you don't get to be in that space in that same way. There's other ways of holding space that's not necessarily facilitatory in its entirety, but has a little bit of both, where I'm sitting in the space and doing the exercises as everybody else is doing, being a witness of what's coming up for me and not in that distant, like I'm holding, right? And so that tended to be for more spiritual containers. And then in much more secular containers, I've had to like facilitate more specifically. Having said that, this is my platform. I'm like, what in the banana peel? Because I'm such a literal person. So like I try to, apply a thing or do a thing in a specific way. Now I want to do it differently. And I want to be in this. And I want to be more fully in this. Not having to, shift or have a veil between us. And so I will be sharing specifically my journey in real time as I continue to unmask, as I learn to manage my life in a way that's much more generative, not ableist, and not continuing the cycles of internalizing the ableism and projections that I've experienced. Oh my gosh, it's so real that after a while, when you get hit so many times from other people with their projections, it has such an impact on you. And then you're trying to figure out, it's a mess. And that's not because I care about what other people think. It's not that thing. It's like, wait a minute, if I'm struggling or if this thing, and this person's giving maybe, this is, for fuck's sake, you have to watch who you're letting speak to you. Some people are here reckless, just spitting shit off in ways that it's actually doesn't apply to you and is not for your context. So please be careful. Anyway, what's going to happen? I have no idea. I have no idea what anything's going to look like. All I know is that I have restarted the artist way. So I'll be doing that once a week and talking about it. And I don't know yet whether, what that looks like, but I'll be sharing what I'm doing in my journey, in my own journey to get free in some of these areas that have been kicking my ass in ways that you maybe can or can't imagine. So my hope is to do more vlogs, and my hope is to just be here sharing what it looks like for a Puerto Rican priestess, culturally Puerto Rican. I wasn't raised culturally Jewish, so I can't speak to that shit. If you don't know, you can go, I don't know, maybe some other video that I have in here. Maybe not. I don't know anymore. And I live in Pennsylvania and in a pretty conservative area. I have two adult children who are amazing humans, and single, divorced, was married for 23 years. Yes, that's real too. That's its own story. Another video. And so this is what it's going to look like. There's some things that I do want to do in terms of like integrate more slow living into my life. It's actually, that speaks to my soul really deeply. And what I mean by that is, things like just taking the time to slow down, more spaciousness, not more busyness, not more ambition, although I'm not ambitious in that way, but like, not more productivity, more grounding, more slowness and presence in my days and in my own cycles. More bread making, more from scratch making, because I do love doing those things. More herbal kit making for magical and personal alignment, physical alignment. And so more poetry, more art, because your homegirl got to fill her tank up. The struggle has been real. More liberation, and as much as is within my reach and capacity to create for my own life, because I still live in this fucking world. I know some folks have gone and ascended their ass entirely out of the universe. I'm just, I don't know, like, who's paying your car insurance? Or I don't, because when I'm traveling in the multi dimensions, I be forgetting some shit, even when I have the phone reminder and on my calendar. So what I mean is, I believe in the full embodiment of being in all the dimensions. I don't see division or fragmentation in that way, and I want to live in that way. So a little bit more guard, all those things, like really slowing down some more for myself and for my own peace. What's the dream? What's the goal? The dream, the goal, I wouldn't necessarily, I fucking, like, that goal language drives me nuts. Intentions are to get to a place where I am able to have, a roof over my head that's not going nowhere. Unless I'm going somewhere, and, a stable, secure, steady place to live, and also work that brings me joy and that sustains me. Also, the reciprocity financially has been really challenging in this work, especially the community work, y'all. I know sometimes some folks be getting paid. I haven't been one of those folks. And it's, also where I live, and also a lot of different intersections there. But getting that situated, much more anchored, and also growing. I want to grow my own food and grow my own herbs, right? Like that's the goal: to write books, grow food, grow herbs, make love, make beauty, live in the sensuality of being a multidimensional being here. And supporting folks in being as present with themselves, supporting healing, but not healing as in one day I'm better and perfect, but supporting healing that is accepting all the pieces of yourself, the rough edges, the places of some things change you, and you'll never be the same. Not better or worse, but just some pieces are just, they hurt and they're there, you know? And so I'm not for the person who wants, I'm not here for folks who are into the, and you have to understand that I was there for a long time like this, you know, the idealism of like perfecting my character. My children were raised very specific and particular. Like I was so integrity, character heavy and things like that. And, you know, if you are a compassionate person, then you are. And it's cultivated by the engagement and by how we treat each other. And so, character, virtues, all of those are things you cultivate. Integrity is something you actually like integrate. And your lived experience is not about perfection and not about better, but it's really about being your fullest self. And that doesn't come from doing more out. It actually comes from unfurling and taking down and taking out the layers like an onion. Shrek comes immediately to mind, and donkey. You know, so that is what's happening. You're about to witness my own humanity in such ways as I move through unmasking my own life. And again, not from the perspective of that bullshit that fake people do. That's a whole different video. It's from the perspective of all that it takes energetically, physically, mentally, spiritually to be a neurodivergent person in this dimension and create a life that actually works for you and not for who people think you need to be and not for who you think you need to be, as in you're so fucked up and you're so damaged that there's not nothing more. So you have to just live on the surface and deny your own needs and fucking self-deprecate, and you deserve better and I deserve better than to always feel like we're missing the mark. So that's what's going to be happening here. Finally got this video done. I've been trying to do this video like for weeks now. I'm like, I want to do a video. I want to talk about the reset. I want to do a video. I want to talk about the reset. Maybe I should do an outline. Fuck the outline. We're stepping into the unknown. We don't know what it looks like. Maybe I should just plan nobody cares about just don't plan shit. And I'm like, don't plan shit. Just get on the video. Talk about it. If people want to join you, let them like and subscribe. If they're like, I don't know, she thinks so much, she's talking so much, and she talks so fast, don't stay. If it's that hard, I respect that. It's totally cool. The truth is that one of the hardest things in the world, this is a quick scoop, and then I'm going to close out, right, is that as a New Eurekan woman who lived on the island as a child with her mother and her siblings, who then moved back to New York, originally from Brooklyn, born in Brooklyn, mostly raised in Brooklyn. I, for the life of me, I'm going to have moments where I talk really fast, and I'm going to have moments when I'm mad chill. Usually if I'm in my poetry zone, my shit is mad smooth and chill, and for the most part, I tend to be like chill. Now, if I'm on some excited shit, if I'm on my special interest, if I'm on my Jones, I'm going to go a little bit faster, and if I especially feel pressured by time, then I might talk a little faster. This is the magic of technology. I learned this last year, actually, when I was looking up ADD hacks, is that you can slow down a video and you can speed a video up. You can slow down an audiobook and you can speed it up. Listen, I know that just sounds just really like basic, but I had not even registered that was a thing you could do. I'm over here suffering because some folks are talking mad fast and then some, you know what I mean? Like all of those things. All of that to say that part of my particular expression is that there are going to be times I'm going to be talking quickly. If you ask me to slow it down and to hyper explain, because you can't even register at all what I'm saying, that might be difficult for me and it's extremely painful. And I mean that in a real way. Not because I don't provide already a million examples and over explain myself as a as a coping mechanism and as a like a making sure type of thing. Not a new thing and not an unusual thing with neurodivergent folks, but anyways, it is because when I'm in the flow, I'm in the flow. And the minute you tell me that you don't understand something because I'm not making it clear enough is the minute that you and I will really struggle to have conversations. And I just can't do it anymore. I can't. I have, what's a good way to say this? I'll tell you what my father told me a couple of weeks before he passed. During that time is when I went through the situation with the colleague who then released me after, as a business owner, shifting how I was going to do contracts and things like that. And she fucked me over, right? Skanky shit. All right. So my dad's in the living room, laying on his bed, and I come in. My sister's there, my stepmom's there, and we're just sitting. So my stepmom starts to, and I've talked about the story. My stepmom starts to ask me, how you doing? How's it going? And I was like, this is what happened, and like, it's like, what the fuck, right? I was in shock. I was relieved and angry, all of it. Relieved because that shit was getting so toxic. I didn't know, and I didn't have the capacity to deal with that shit then. So that was fine, right? And so my stepmom's like, God will work it out. My people come from church, so God will work it out. You just gotta have faith. My dad, literally in his deathbed, right, like that thing. He's like, you know what your problem is, Nana? Tell me, what's my problem, Dad? Go ahead, go. This is the time. This is the time. Tell me, what's my problem? He's like, Nana, your problem is that like you worry about everything. You get so stressed out about everything. You're so sensitive. We'll talk about that in another video. But anyways, that's what come from. You're so sensitive. And I'm like, I know this. He said, Nana, the fucking stress is going to give you a fucking heart attack. I'm worried about your health. I'm worried about you. You can't keep on. You can't. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this is not a choice. This is real. This. She fucked with my money. I wasn't fucking with her money. She fucked with my money. It's like, whoa. She may have a million reasons for that. Who the fuck cares? Right. But anyway, and he's like, I'm worried about you. You're going to have a fucking heart attack. You're going to have a fucking stroke. You can't keep on stressing out like this. I sat there and I was like, Dad. And so my stepmom was like, babe, she's, it's a real, And my dad was like, no, I'm worried about her. She's going to fucking have a stroke. And she's always so stressed and there's so much going on for her. She needs not to worry about those things. And his big close with this was that, he's laying there going through what he's going through. And he's, he's trusting God. He was angry as shit. He didn't know what the fuck to do with his anger. Rightly so. so I just cracked up because I was like, yeah, buddy. Nah, you're not handling it well either. And you shouldn't have to. So I think if we don't, I've spoken to hundreds, if not 1,000 and something people so far. I'm 46 years old. I have held circle and been in space, countless people and ages, different range intergenerationally, from children to elderly folk. And I've been out there trying to create awareness, trying to support folks in understanding. And when I tell you that the work of social justice, change, and transformation at a collective level is one of the most challenging things you'll ever commit to do, Trust and believe that I mean that. And that work can kill you. The reason why, other than dying as a Black, brown, or indigenous person because of fucking white supremacy, and we can layer that, and we can, I mean, for days we can talk about all the stuff. What I mean is, for those that are showing up on a daily basis, committed to our collective transformation, that are actually going out there and are fucking like, sitting with people in pain, people in the fucking, in the throes of the unimaginable. It can take a toll, and it can be so heartbreaking. And the stress of it and your own life, if you continue to subscribe to the structures, you can hack that. But know that also, when you subscribe to them, they reinforce and they're self-perpetuating. And that becomes difficult for all of us as people who desire change and transformation. So if I don't change my own life, and I don't commit to a reset, and I don't commit to reevaluating how I'm even engaging and designing my life and my world, because this is not a career, this is what my community does and how we do. We fight for our people. We fight for our liberation. We fight. We show up. We interrupt. We disrupt. We'll walk the streets if we need to. We'll do whatever. We will share the last grain of rice, the last bean, the last piece of chicken. We will go through great lengths just to love on our people and just to show up. And that, without being resourced ourselves, can take a toll on our bodies, our minds, and our spirits, to the point that it impacts your health in a way that some people cannot come back from, and will spend the rest of their lives recovering from just doing social justice work and then trying also to manage their lives. So I, Kahana, want to reset my life in a way that actually allows me to unmask, allows me to have days where I get to shut down so that I can recover enough to show up for the thing that I love the most. And that's being with you, being with my family, being with like nature, making love to a tree. I know that sounds, but if you know, you know. And if you don't, it's personal. You could keep it to yourself. Right? But like actually being fully embodied. So that's my plan. That's what I'm up to. That's where this channel is going. If you're like, I don't know if I want to, do what you must do. You are welcome to make choices for yourself. But if you so happen to be like, what's up, y'all? I'm on it with you. Let's do it. I need to reset my shit too. Then go ahead and comment below. Let me know that you're going to be up to it too. Do you want to read The Artist Way with me? You can. I'm going to be doing it weekly. I just started this week. I did this already years back, and it saved my life. And one of the most fucking, I was burnt out like a mud. Having said that, you're welcome to join me here and on Patreon, where I'll share that. I'm also reading the book. You're going to love this. This is wonderful. I'm going to be reading the rest of this book, Return to the Place by Rabbi Jill Hammer. Let me put that up closer. She is both my teacher, mentor, wonderful, just amazing. And I'll also be reading 6 Ways. So I have a lot of good reading here, because I also have Weaving I forgot what the other one is, actually. Let me see. Yes, Weaving Fate is the shit. Anyway, so I'll be sharing all of the things, occasionally doing a reading for folks here, occasionally doing the reading in Patreon. So here's a card for the go. The Altar. This is the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle deck from Lorraine Anderson and Juliet Diaz, illustrated by Giada Rose. I've been trying to pull out all my decks and use them. The Altar, a sacred devotion, a worship, skin deep rising from the ash, the waters you keep. My friends, this is what I will be doing. I will be tending the altars of my life. How are you tending your altars? I'm sorry. How are you tending your altar? What are you shifting? Because the altar is the waters that feed you. There it is. There is your full moon, Mercury in retrograde. Take some time to reflect on the waters that you keep that nourish you, because that's what I'll be doing on this channel. It is 54:55 in this video. It is 1:11 a.m. 111. I mean, come on. What in the Holy Batmobile? This is so auspicious. Thank you, Most High, Shekhinah, for such an awesome, amazing opportunity to have the energy. Got one spoon left to come on here and share with you where I'm going, what's happening. And if you want to join me, you know what to do. And blessings to you. Deepest love, devotion, and heart. And I will see you soon again. Los quiero mucho. Que la pasen bien. Shalom. Rosh Hashanah is right around the corner, so that's another big ass reset. We on our way there. And then there's Yom Kippur. And there's just all this high holy day, Jewlicious action happening that is a portal to another massive shift. So let's do this, my love. Anyway, good night or good morning or good afternoon or good blessings. And I will see you otra vez. Bye.